Hello everybody, welcome to Moto Mengy. One question I get asked a lot is, what do I think of my Insta360 One X2? Now I've been motovlogging with this camera for 10 months now. I replaced my Hero 7 as my handlebar cam with this one. Lots of viewers often ask me, what do I think of the One X2? Is it a good camera for motovlogging? Do I find it useful? Do I find it frustrating? Is it better than the GoPro cameras? So today for this video, I'm gonna do a almost 1 year review of the Insta360 One X2 from a motovlogger's perspective. Now I bought this camera about 10 months ago, and I bought it with my own money. This isn't a free camera, it's not a sponsored video from Insta360. They didn't give it to me like some other motovloggers get these things for free. Moto Mengy is not that big, to be honest. So yeah, I paid for this myself because I thought having a 360-degree camera would be nice from a creative motovlogging point of view. Let's put it that way. What I wanted a camera on the bike that I could point in any direction around the bike while I'm riding during the editing, so I wouldn't have to worry about it while I'm riding. So that way I could focus on just riding and worry about pointing the camera around later. And I looked at the GoPro Max, which is their 360 camera, but I opted for the Insta360 One X2 for a few reasons. And some of those are the pros of what I like about this camera. I'll do a pros and cons list from here. One of the big reasons why I got this over the GoPro is because of the software. The editing software from Insta360 is really good. They have a desktop software and they have a phone app software. I only use the desktop software. I don't use the phone app software at all. I have played around with it. The phone app software is very nice. I just don't like editing on a small phone. I like doing it on the big screen on my computer with a mouse and keyboard. I just find it easier, but they both work very well. It's very easy to take your 360 footage and crop it down to the views you want and that kind of stuff. The Insta360 software is super easy to use and it never crashes on me. It hasn't given me any problems at all. Whereas when I was reading about the GoPro 360 Max, I heard a lot of complaints about the GoPro software and troubles it had and stuff. So that's one reason why I opted for this. And the software is really good. They update it pretty regularly, actually. It just got a big overhaul a few months ago that made it really much nicer than it was before even. Another pro for the Insta360 One X2 is the battery life. It has outstanding battery life. Like, the battery lasts a really long time. Longer than my Hero 8, to be honest. Quite a bit longer than the Hero 8, and even longer than the Hero 7. You get about an hour and a half to 2 hours worth of constant filming with this thing, with the battery, whereas my Hero 8 will get 1 hour to 1.5 hours, depending on what resolution it's on and stuff. Another pro for the One X2 is that in 10 months of motovlogging with this, I haven't had a single crash on the camera, nor a single messed up file from this thing. No errors at all. Now that's a big contrast to the Hero 8 because I've had lots of problems with the GoPros, both the Hero 7 and the Hero 8. Not lots, but I've lost a few motovlogs that I filmed because the GoPro corrupted the footage or it did something I didn't want the camera to do for no reason whatsoever, or the battery didn't work for some reason. Often with the GoPros, the cameras won't turn on, so you gotta take the battery out and put it back in and then it resets something. I don't know why it does that, but it happens quite a bit with the GoPros, especially on hot days. This One X2 I haven't had a single problem with. It works when I want it to, it turns off when I want it to, zero problems. And almost a year's worth of filming, so that's pretty good. Mounting wise, it mounts with a little screw point on the bottom of the camera, which makes it nice for something like a selfie stick, because all you do is just screw it on like this. And then when you film with the camera, it doesn't see anything beneath the cutting plane. Like there are two cameras on the Insta360, one on two sides. Both cameras film in 180 degrees, and it splices both halves together to create one 360-degree video, but the cutting plane is right between the cameras. So because it mounts right down what they call the splicing line or something, I think it's called, it doesn't see the selfie stick. I'll put some footage here of me walking around with this thing, holding it by the selfie stick, and I'll point it down towards my hand, and you won't see the selfie stick at all. Well, it's not super handy for motovlogging, although it is, because if you mount the camera to a bike with like a long extension mount, like a selfie stick like this to the bike itself, you won't see how the camera's mounted. It'll look like the camera's floating around the bike wherever you have it mounted to. And it makes it for like a drone type looking shot, even though it's attached to the bike, which is pretty great. It's pretty awesome, actually. It allows a lot of creativity when filming and putting motovlogs together and with editing and stuff. You can mount the camera in all kinds of different ways and get a huge variety of different shots. I'll splice in some footage here that I got when I was experimenting with how to mount this thing. I did a video about creative ways to use the 1X2. I'll put a link to that video up here in the corner too. But I'll put a little bit of footage here in this video showing different ways I mounted this thing and different views you can get from the bike while riding. It's pretty sweet. And that's really one of the greatest aspects about filming with the 1X2 and a 360-degree camera in general, but particularly this camera, because you can just, your creativity is pretty much the limit. You can get all kinds of different shots with this thing, as long as you're willing to try it and brave enough to give it a shot. Which leads me to one of the cons though. I'll go through some cons now about this camera. There are a few. It's not perfect. It's almost perfect. It really is. I mean, I love this camera, but one of the cons is, you know, the mounting it. You have to mount it to the bike. If you want those drone type shots, you've got to mount it far away from the bike. Like I want to sit like this, pretty far, you know. And then depending where you have it pointed, it can look dumb for one thing, but it can get in the way of stuff too. If you have it out to the side, you got to be careful you don't drag the camera into something along the side of the road or into an oncoming car in the other lane or something. You also got to find a way to mount the camera to the bike solidly. And that's the big problem with me and the Goldwing. The Goldwing doesn't have a lot of mounting points. Like adventure bikes and stuff, they have bash cages and, you know, rollover bars and all that kind of stuff that are nice and round and solid mounting points that are exposed. You can easily mount this thing to any of those bars, but a bike like the Goldwing just doesn't have that kind of stuff. It's too clad in plastic and it's smooth looking, and yeah, I can drill through the plastic, or I can stick GoPro mounting pads all over the bike, but I don't want to do that either. So mounting the 1X2 to the Goldwing requires a little bit of careful thought and creativity. That's one of the reasons why I have it mounted to my handlebar. It just worked out nicely. And then for about 10 months now, I've been using it as my handlebar cam pointing back at me. I replaced my Hero 7 with this camera. And that worked well, because then I can change the view from pointing back at me to the sides of the bike or to the front of the bike or to up above the trees, all kind of stuff. But that leads me to another con of the 1X2, and probably the greatest con I've had with this camera. And one of the things that prevents it from being an all-around super camera is the resolution it films in. Now the 1X2 films in 5.7K resolution, which sounds high, but that 5.7K is in 360 degrees. So when you pare down that field of view to a linear flat view, like a normal camera, like a GoPro view, down to like 90 degrees, 80 degrees field of view, you're cutting down that 5.7K down to like 1080p or something even smaller possibly, depending on how close you crop it in. And at that point, the 1X2 loses resolution noticeably. Like if I have it pointing to the side of the bike, I can't zoom in on a barn in the distance or anything. Because if I zoom in on a house or a barn or a building far away, it's gonna look very pixelated and like down to like 720p or even less possibly. And that kind of blows. In that regard, the GoPros work a lot better. You can film with the GoPros in 2.7K linear view or 4K or whatever you want, and then it makes it very easy to crop down in post and the editing to get a zoomed in view if you want to, but still have good resolution and clarity. My greatest hope is that when Insta360 creates the 1X3, or a sequel camera to this, the next version of this camera, that it films at even higher resolution. Maybe double, like what would that be? 11.4K, something like that. If they could do that, this camera would be my super camera. I could motovlog from this camera alone and nothing else, and make really good, high quality, good resolution motovlogs. It would be awesome. And if they ever create a 1X3 with a super resolution like that, I will buy it hands down. I'll buy it instantly. I don't even care if it costs $600 or more. It'd be worth it, I think, because the flexibility and the quality of video you could produce from that would be outstanding. And that's this camera's biggest Achilles heel, is the resolution. Now it's not terrible if you keep it cropped to a 90-degree field of view and a flat view close to the camera point of view. Like, you know, you can change the distance the camera sees at in the editing software. You keep it at a low distance, you keep it close to the lens. Like when I have it on the bike, on the handlebar mounted looking back at me. It's decent resolution. It's not as good as the Hero 7 was, but it's not terrible. But if I zoom in on me, looking back at me, or I whatever, then it gets a little pixelated. I do that very sparingly because it looks low quality or like YouTube's messing up or stuff. But no, it's the resolution on the camera. Another con with the One X2 is the internal microphones built into the cameras. The microphones aren't bad. I'm not gonna say they're bad, but they aren't to GoPro quality either. And wind noise really impacts the quality you get from the microphones in this camera. If you were gonna film with this full time, you would need to plug in an external mic to it, without a doubt. And they have a little port here on the side. You can plug in a external microphone or a little, not a medium mod, but a little jack adapter for microphones. But then when you do that, you lose the weather resistant capabilities, the waterproofing of the camera too, because the port's open. So that's not an ideal solution. I'm hoping for the next version of this camera, they improve the microphone quality. Like I said, it's not terrible, it's okay. It's just not GoPro quality either. One other drawback to the One X2, which is a minor point really, but I'm gonna mention it, is the video files are rather large. It creates large file sizes. And that's because it's filming at 5.7K. I mean, it's gonna have that, there's no way around it. You need a large SD card to work with this camera. I have a 256 gigabyte SD card in it now, and it works great. But if you were gonna film this full time or film with it a lot and get lots of footage, you'd probably want something even larger than a 256 gigabyte card. I know it supports up to 1 terabyte SD cards, and if you were gonna do this, a lot of filming with this, like on trips and you had to collect a lot of footage and store it until you got back home or whatever, you'd want a 1 terabyte card. Because 256 fills up fast. So it's not really a downside to the camera, but it's something to be considerate of. Another downside, they're not really a downside, but more like something to be aware of. The One X2 has a 30-minute limit to the files it creates. So you can film for 30 minutes and then it does what GoPro does, then it'll continue filming after that 30 minutes, but it'll split the files up into new files. Now when GoPro does that, it's seamless. From one file to the next, there's no break in the file, like it's instant. Then you can splice the files together and you have one continuous big file. With the One X2, when it jumps from the one 30-minute file to the next continuation file, it doesn't do it seamlessly. There's a good 15 to 20 seconds lost time between the files. It'll keep filming, it won't turn off, it'll keep going automatically, but you'll lose footage for about 15, 20 seconds between the break points. I've only had that happen to me twice, and the first time it happened, I didn't know, I thought the camera goofed up, but then I found out when it happened again, I did some research and found out that's just what the camera does. It's how it handles continuing files, or it's how it handles long file sizes or long filming times or whatever. So that 30-minute break is something to be aware of when you're filming with this. And as long as you're aware of that when filming with long continuous files, you can, it's not a big deal. What I try to do now is I just don't film in greater than 30-minute segments. I'll film for a maximum of like 25 something minutes, and then I'll stop recording and start up again, and a new recording is what I'll do. That way I get around it easily. Another con with filming with the One X2 motovlogging is it does add editing time to the process of making the video. There's no question about it. Filming in 360 requires some post-processing that filming on a GoPro doesn't require. You have to go through all the footage you have on this camera and then figure out the viewpoints you want and create the footage and import it back into your editor, and it does take time. Now with the Insta360 software, it's easy to do, but it does still, it's a little time consuming. It's just the process of doing it. There's no way around it. It takes longer than simply dumping your GoPro footage into the editor and splicing it up and using it. So those are the pros and cons of the One X2, but would I recommend it for motovlogging? And my answer is yeah, I actually would. Not for a helmet camera, I wouldn't recommend it for that. The size of it is different than like a GoPro, and mounting on like a helmet, on like a chin bar would be a little awkward and difficult, I think. But for a secondary camera, for a camera you mount on the bike in one spot or in various spots or whatever to get creative shots or a variety of shots, this thing's outstanding. It works great for that. And it works great for a handlebar camera too, honestly. I really enjoyed having it on my handlebar looking back at me. Now the camera costs about $440, and I think it's worth it. It's a really powerful, handy camera. It works great for off the bike filming too. Like if you get off the bike and you want to walk around like a bridge or a path, or walk around the bike, or do a short off bike trek or whatever while, for a motovlog, this thing is fantastic. Because filming while walking, this thing is brilliant for that. But it's also really good for filming while riding too. But it doesn't work good for one thing I thought it would be good for, and one thing I bought it for, which is filming off the side of the road while I'm riding the bike past the camera. Like I thought I could use this thing to like views of me riding from like the point of someone else filming me riding. Cause you know, when I'm off somewhere by myself, I don't have a second cameraman. But if I put this on the tripod on the ground next to me or next to the road and then I ride by it, in editing, I can swivel the point of view to follow me on the bike. I did that in my creative uses video for this thing. I thought it would be great for that, but it's not because of the limited resolution that it has. You need to have the camera real, like, right against the edge of the road, and you need to ride right past it to get any kind of quality footage, but even then, it's not great. If they ever come out with a 1x3 that has a higher resolution for filming, then this would be outstanding for side of the road, passing by, filming or whatever, buzzing the tower, buzzing the camera, so to speak. But yeah, I really like this camera. I'm glad I bought it. I've had a lot of fun using it for these past 10 months. Learned a lot and tried a lot with it, and there's still stuff I want to try with it. So for anyone that wants to know the answer of what I recommend for motovlogging, the answer is yes. So thanks for watching, everyone. If you have any questions, post them down below, or any comments on what I said about the Insta360 1X2. I'll answer all your questions if you have any. And even though I'm not sponsored and this is all just my opinion and no one's paying me for any of this, I'd still recommend this. It's a handy camera. All right, well, thanks for watching, everyone. It's nice out today. I'm gonna go get the bike out of the garage and go for a ride. Take care, ride safe, and see you next time.